Everyone's hyping GPT-5 up like it's a once-in-a-decade breakthrough. I think it's just the next update. In this video, I'm going to break down the new improvements in GPT-5 and what are the actual things that you're going to be using in your day-to-day work. Because even though it's not a once-in-a-lifetime or once-in-a-decade improvement, there still are some very good game-changing features that you can start using right now. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Matt Paiva. I build AI solutions for businesses, especially on the sales and marketing side of things. And yes, GPT-5 is our best model yet, but no, it won't change our life overnight. So let's talk about it. So OpenAI released GPT-5 a few days ago, and I've been using it nonstop to test out its capabilities, but I've come to the conclusion that a couple different things didn't change, but some other things did. So let's start talking about the things that came new with GPT-5. The biggest improvement that we're seeing in GPT-5 is the unified experience that OpenAI has created. Previously, if you clicked over here on the top left-hand corner of your ChatGPT, you would see a bunch of different models that you still can see, but now you can see only three: the GPT-5, GPT-5 Thinking, and GPT-5 Pro, which I don't have access to because I'm pretty sure you need to pay $200 a month in order to get access to this. So previously, if you were starting a new chat in ChatGPT, you would have all of the legacy models listed down here. As of right now, I can see the three models that I just listed and the 4.0 model. I thought that the OpenAI team was going to leave all of the previous models, including the O3, the 04, 04 mini, and the other ones that we had available here as well. And they decided not to. They decided to unify the entire experience and just show the GPT-5, 5 Thinking, and 5 Pro for the sake of simplicity, which I like a lot. And by the way, if you still want to have access to the previous legacy models, which I'm not super sure why you would, but if you want to have access to that, you can just click at the bottom left-hand corner in your profile, go to settings, and turn on show legacy models. Now, why is a unified experience so important? Because the average ChatGPT user probably won't know the difference between all of the different models. And not only within ChatGPT, you had so many models, but you have all of these other platforms like Google Gemini, like Claude, like Grok, and all of these other platforms that also have their own models for each specific type of use case. So you can imagine that if you have many companies developing these LLM models and each model is best for each specific use case, you're going to end up with hundreds of models that you probably won't know what they do best. In fact, I just started switching some of the workflows that I have to Claude to use it more frequently. And when I opened it, I realized that I actually didn't know what Claude's models did what best. And that's super common because there's so much going on in the AI space that it's so hard to keep up. For me and you, who are people that are probably using ChatGPT every day, we have a better understanding of what models do what best. But the average ChatGPT user most likely don't. And honestly, they shouldn't. The expectation with AI is to eventually be able to have Jarvis in your pocket, right? From Iron Man. And you want to be able to just ask really complex questions or do really complex things without having to worry about who are you asking this to? Who here would be what LLM you're asking this to, or what specific LLM model you're asking this to. And no, that expectation will not be met with GPT-5, but this is definitely a step towards that. Previously, for example, if I wanted to analyze some data and I wanted to import an Excel file with the sales data for a specific retail location or a retail region, I would upload that Excel file onto ChatGPT and I would probably use the 04 mini model because that was the model that was doing best in terms of data analysis and programming in the background. On the other hand, if I wanted to write a complex essay or something along those lines, maybe I'm going to go for the GPT 4.5 because it had a little bit better creative writing. But the fact that you know what model does each thing best won't actually be the case for all the other types of users. In fact, most users don't know what model does what best. And GPT-5 kind of solves that. And it does that in a couple different ways. Well, first, it has an internal router that pretty much understands the question that you're asking, understands the prompt that you're asking, and it internally routes the model that will perform or answer that question best for you without you having to switch it manually. Now, that sounds like it's super intuitive and it should have been there from the beginning. And this is in fact a big leap forward for the average user. For us, if you're building workflows, you're still going to have to understand what models do what best in order to pick the one properly when you're running your API calls. But for the average user that is focused on using ChatGPT within the ChatGPT interface instead of connecting it through an API, this is really life-changing. Actually, I should probably avoid using the words life-changing here because I don't actually think it's life-changing, but it is a big leap forward. Now, aside from this, there were a lot of different improvements that were done in the background in order to improve these models, some of which were kind of expected. The same way that you know that the next iPhone will have a better camera, this next model will be faster and will have less hallucinations. In fact, that kind of holds true for every other model across companies. If another company decides to release another model tomorrow to compete with GPT-5, it will very likely be faster and will have less hallucinations than the previous one from that exact company. And to continue this analogy a little bit further, there are a couple different things that we expect whenever we get a new iPhone update, and then there are a couple different things that we actually get when we get a new iPhone update. For example, one thing that I would love the iPhone to have is the ability to actually have a battery that lasts a week long. But no, that's not something that we get with every iPhone update. We usually get a better camera and some other tweaks. So with AI models, what we really want is agentic capabilities, and that would be almost like coming really close to what Jarvis in Iron Man actually looks like. But what we're actually going to get are probably faster response times, better responses, and little hallucinations or less hallucinations than the previous model. And don't get me wrong, all of those things are really good. Like, I love having a better camera in a new iPhone. Is it something that I was dying for in the previous iPhone? No. So the hallucinations part is actually something that we are quote unquote dying for with these updates. We need these models to be reliable. And there is a big improvement here according to OpenAI. So to wrap up that analogy, there are things that we really want. They're probably not going to come right away, just like these agentic capabilities, but there are things that we're probably going to get with every new model update. We're going to get faster response times and less hallucinations. Those I am assuming, and I'm hoping actually, to continue to be a constant in every single model update. Now, aside from less hallucinations and faster response times, what are the things that we actually got with GPT-5? Well, if we look at the screen over here, we got a couple different things. And the one that I'm personally most excited about are actually these two: the voice improvements and the connect Gmail and Google Calendar to this. If you guys have seen my videos for a while, you guys know that I like to use voice a lot to prompt ChatGPT because I like to context dump a lot. So if I'm having a conversation with ChatGPT, either actually having the voice chat on or just prompting using my voice, I use it a lot. And I'm really happy that now we don't have any limitations with this, or we're getting close to not having any limitations with this. The other side of things that I was talking about on the Gmail and Google Calendar side is something that was not working properly at all with ChatGPT before. And in fact, Claude was doing a much better job at this. And I'm really happy to see that they are doing this a little bit better. It looked really nice and really straightforward in their demo, but it doesn't look like it's going to do something that we've never seen before. In the video where OpenAI introduces GPT-5, right around the 30-minute mark, 29-minute mark, they actually show us how this will work in the interface. It just says, help me plan my schedule for tomorrow, and then it goes ahead and it reads Gmail, it reads Google Calendar, and it gives you a response. It looks like it took 18 seconds to actually give this person a response. I forget her name, but she does introduce herself in the beginning of this section of the introduction of GPT-5. And this is a really similar answer as to what you would get with Claude if you just connected your Google Calendar and Gmail. The only key difference that I see between here and what Claude currently does is that it actually just looked at Gmail without it being prompted to. Let me actually just go back to the prompt. Yeah, it just says, help me plan my schedule for tomorrow. And we can see on this part over here that it says read emails in Gmail. Like, that's something that wasn't necessarily prompted, but ChatGPT decided to proactively go ahead and look through Gmail, and it even found an unread email, which it mentions in the response over here. I covered ChatGPT connectors in the past, and I was kind of disappointed with the use cases that came back to me, or at least with the responses that I was getting, because it was taking too long. ChatGPT connectors use the deep research tool, which just means that it will always take a long time to actually access that information. And when it uses the deep research tool, previously it was using the O3 model. Now I'm curious if it will be using the GPT-5 thinking model instead. And these large reasoning models usually don't perform well in simple tasks like this one, help me plan my day, or a simple task that would be like, what was the last email I received from this person? So hopefully this update will actually improve the capabilities of Gmail and Google Calendar with ChatGPT. Now, the key thing of why I'm not showing you guys this, and it's something that they actually mentioned over here, is that they're slowly releasing this over time. And I'm recording this video within a week of this being released. So they are releasing it first for the highest tier of paid users and then trickling down. I should get access to this within a week or so. And when that actually comes out, I'll definitely make sure to either make a post, a YouTube Shorts, or something on LinkedIn, because this is not a deep topic that would require a lot of work to talk about. Actually, that would not require a lot of time to talk about. Nonetheless, seeing these improvements and these connections to Gmail and Google Calendar, which are definitely the two main tools that every professional uses, are very exciting to see, because again, it moves us closer to that Jarvis status of being able to access our other softwares and being able to talk to other things and have that that agentic feel. Aside from that, something that was much needed is that they fixed the sycophancy issue, and it does look like they have done that. And sycophancy, by the way, is just the agreeableness that 4.0 had in the past. You might have noticed that anything you said, it would just say like, oh, you're absolutely right, you do this, this, and this. It would very rarely challenge any assumptions that you had before or help you move forward. It was being really agreeable with everything that you said. In the past, I even connected these traits over here to ChatGPT because I wanted it to be less agreeable with me. So I created a little prompt, or I think I copied this from someone on TikTok in order to have that. But now I'm actually not even super happy with the results that I'm getting from ChatGPT with this prompt in the background, because I've noticed that a lot of the responses that I'm getting just say like, oh, I'm gonna like, here is a full breakdown of this, no fluff, no BS, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you don't need to say that in every single prompt. And along with that attempt of removing the sycophancy, they've attached a couple different personalities here to ChatGPT. So you have the default personality, which is what obviously will be defaulted to. You have cynic, robot, listener, and nerd. These are things that I'm still yet to test out. I was testing out a couple other things throughout the weekend, but I am very curious to see how the sarcasm actually looks like with AI. And to be honest, these personalities to me, they're just like a nice to have, but I know that a lot of Grok users praise Grok for it being sarcastic, for it to actually have personality. I don't personally use Grok, so I don't know. And I guess this is just OpenAI's attempt to match that in some way, shape, or form and stay ahead in the curve. Now, a lot of the things that improved with ChatGPT-5 are the ability to code. They're definitely taking advantage of the vibe coding wave. And this is one of the things that I tested the most within ChatGPT, and I actually wanted to show you guys one of the things that I created. I attempted to create a quote-unquote Duolingo alternative for my dad because he is addicted to Duolingo and he's finished all of the Italian lessons available in Duolingo. So I was just kind of copying the example that the OpenAI team showed in their demo, and I tried to run it over here. Oh, that was crazy. I think it did a couple updates and it definitely didn't work. But I'm just going to restore a previous version of this app. It's good because whenever you're using coding in ChatGPT to use Canvas, because it will save your code. If you're running any like type of coding tasks, sometimes it might not save it. So this is kind of like the web application that was created. This was like a one-shot prompt. I actually didn't prompt anything else. I just copied ChatGPT's prompt and changed a couple different things. And this is what we're calling Italiano Plus, which is just a quick app for my dad to continue his learnings in Italian from Portuguese. So there's a couple different things that can be done in the background here, and we even have some progress bars. It looks really nice, and it genuinely didn't take long to create this. So I'm really impressed with the improvements in coding inside ChatGPT. The Canvas tool in general actually seems like it's going to be a really good tool in the future for ChatGPT users, especially to create these types of web applications, or even to create simple PowerPoints or simple designs in order to move things forward. There are other applications that do this better, like Gamma or Gamma. I actually don't know how to pronounce it. Gamma does really amazing PowerPoints if you input a really nice prompt and you input the contents of the PowerPoint that you want to create. And like Lovable and Bolt are really, really straightforward when it comes to vibe coding, web applications as well. It does make sense that OpenAI is putting an effort into bringing all those features into ChatGPT because they have the first mover advantage. So they just need to pretty much stay ahead, or at least have some of the features and have it perform well in order to not lose that first mover advantage. I doubt that most users, once they are using ChatGPT and they are used to the interface, it's so hard for you to switch to a different company, from like ChatGPT to Claude or from ChatGPT to Gemini, because you need to relearn how it works in the background. And even to the point that I did earlier in the video, if you had multiple of these models available, like you do with Claude or like you do with Gemini, it kind of gets annoying for you to understand which one does what best. Now that I'm thinking about it, Gemini, I think, has the same setup as ChatGPT as of right now, where it just has like 3 different models with the Gemini 2.5 Pro, Flash, and then Flash Lite, if I'm not mistaken. So it is closer to what OpenAI is doing. Long story short, with the vibe coding capabilities here within ChatGPT, it is really nice. I think it's something that will get a little bit better. Will it be just as good as Lovable or Bolt? I'm not sure. I actually don't vibe code a lot myself, so this would be a question for other people that are vibe coding a lot. Nonetheless, really nice to see that OpenAI is putting an effort to staying ahead of the curve, because it is really nice to have these capabilities within ChatGPT. One note that I wanted to leave here in the video about the vibe coding capabilities is that I was trying to push the capabilities as much as I could, and I tried importing a document with some Excel information, just like a table in Excel, and I asked it to create a dashboard visualization using Canvas. That was something that was not able to do, even though it is something that OpenAI seems to say that it should be able to do, right? I even went ahead to double check the document that I have from OpenAI here, and they do claim that that's one of the use cases that should work in this document that is called Inside GPT-5 for Work. In this table over here of each department, they say that the engineering department should be able to create a live app with real-time data. I wasn't able to build it, but the fact that I wasn't able to build it doesn't mean that you won't be able to build it. And on a broader note of the same topic, whenever you watch these videos of live demos of GPT-5 or testing GPT-5 to the limit or whatever model it is, take it with a grain of salt, because you are going to watch a 20-minute video of someone literally live testing that tool, and maybe they'll get a hallucination. But if the OpenAI team, Google team, Claude team, whatever team it is, claims that the hallucinations dropped by X percentage, I would generally believe it, because they are definitely using the appropriate research methods in order to get those data points at the end of the day. You could be very skeptical and not believe them and try it out for yourself, and maybe you will run into hallucinations. In fact, you will definitely run into hallucinations at one point or another if you are using ChatGPT a lot. You just need to understand that on average, these things are going to go down by whatever these companies are claiming. I think there is way too big of a risk for a company like Google or a company like OpenAI to claim something that's not true, that they have not seen in their internal research before releasing a new model. So even if I made a video testing ChatGPT to the limit and I got a couple hallucinations and I'm like, hey guys, my conclusion is that is not as good as they claim, I don't know how true that would actually be. You know, they're doing the proper things of running these research methodologies. Not to mention that they have the proper sample size. And on the topic of sample size, if you want to know what LLM is performing best in general, I actually have LM Arena open over here. And if you're not familiar with LM Arena, the idea is that you prompt something over here and it will give you a couple different answers, and you will pretty much choose what answer is best. And then based on the number of votes that each answer gets, you get this leaderboard over here. And as you guys can see, GPT-5 is leading in the text category and the web dev category. Previously, it was Gemini 2.5 Pro. If we go over to vision, it seems to be the case as well. Text to image, not necessarily, but GPT-5 looks like it is doing a really good job at outperforming these other models that were previously available. So I would trust LM Arena a little bit more than just like one video that I see where someone gets a hallucination. In fact, that was something that I saw today. I literally opened TikTok and I saw someone show a prompt that they ran that says, how many T's are in Tennessee? And GPT-5 responded with, there are 4 T's in Tennessee. Now that's obviously not true, and I also saw that in that screenshot, GPT had thought for like 30 seconds, which leads me to believe that in the background, it accidentally used GPT thinking, and we know that the large reasoning models don't perform well in very simple tasks. They overthink and they give you a response that is incorrect. So sometimes there are these hallucinations, and that TikTok video specifically just showed that screenshot, and I was like, look, it's not actually as good as people are claiming, so don't trust it at all. And that's definitely not the outcome or the takeaway that I'm trying to give with this video. And speaking of takeaways, let's move over to that portion of the video. I think the OpenAI team is doing a great job at unifying all of these different models into one single model that people can use seamlessly. But I genuinely wanted to make a video to just keep our expectations grounded. We can't think that the next GPT update will lead us that much closer to Jarvis. It will at some point, maybe on GPT-10, who knows, or even sooner than that. If you are curious on timelines, there is actually a really good website that theorizes and does some research on what that would look like, which is AI 2027, if I'm not mistaken. This website over here that I'm showing you guys on the screen shows what are the expected and hopeful improvements in AI in the future, and how it would actually impact the way we work until 2027, because that's where we expect AGI to be here. Now, I don't know how good this website will be at predicting these things. Like right now, they're claiming that in mid-2025, we'll see stumbling agents. So these will be like development agents that are getting better at doing things, which seems to be the case. But, you know, if you want to theorize of what the future is going to look like, go ahead to AI2027.com and learn a little bit more about that. Now, with that side note of AI 2027 out of the way, I do think that the OpenAI team is doing a good job at moving the next models forward to what we want it to be. We're not there yet, but we are moving towards the right direction. And especially with the voice thing, that's something that I use a lot and I recommend people to use a lot with the Google Calendar integrations and the Gmail HTML integrations, which are still yet to be tested, and with the Canvas and coding updates that the OpenAI team also included. Now, with all of that being said, if your personal goal is to prepare yourself for the future with AI, the one thing that I would say is just use the models as much as you can. If you're already an avid user of ChatGPT, of Claude, or whatever other LLM model you decide to use, you're already on the right path. You know what the limitations are. The more you use it, the more you'll understand it. I also have a folder with all of my AI automation templates completely for free on the description below that you can just get access and start integrating these things into your business right now. So feel free to take advantage of those, stay ahead of the curve, and let's continue learning what AI can do for us. Thanks for watching the video all the way until the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.